Yeah. I want West in I place once more. Yeah, easy. You wanna know where I come from? You wanna know where I come from? I believe. You wanna know where I come from? I don't pan the Middle East, but y'all out the West one get the kid piece. Me step over to pretty Christine. A big broad smile and giggling teeth. Have a brand new 4-5 pretty crisp clean. We deal with the chica press pretty pristine. Them say them bad but we no intrigue. If you this now your top 10 killing increase. We no join both sides. One west are the best you fi know boy. You put a S on your chest when the chrome pint. Every bone a broke when left lone tribe. They go force right boy if you know your size. Don't see me on the street on a 4-5. You get ratchet knife in your throat pipe. Man who make your chop flesh or your ghost rise. Give up the ghost, make it boat wide. Y'all shut up, bend over, pan to a pint. Fuck you, make you get wet like a boat ride. If you hold tight, y'all, me a hold tight. Alright, no later, then more time. Me have things to do, but got more fight. Lucky where the nanny, girl do bright. Then we shoot the bumbo clad, you grind. That's where we come from. I don't pan the Middle East, but y'all out the West one get the kid piece. Me step over to pretty Christine. A big broad smile and giggling teeth. Have a brand new 4-5 pretty crisp clean. We deal with the chica press pretty pristine. Them say them bad but we no intrigue. If you this now your top 10. Yeah, them too bad, I just mouth them up, I just slogan. You could have big and tough like Hulk Hogan. You get your own a bag, you get toe tag. Send your soul to God, their best no God. Do all fucking clip of your own that. No come set, no chop of your own bat. I go get sent off, we run postal. Get a play out box. She say me handsome, she want hold me cocky at ransom. She want hood fi broke, she want yam some. She say breed me, give me that one son, boy. We have shotgun, we have Remington, we have Magnum. So if a beef you want, you can have some. Anything we come turn in a phantom. How where we come from? I don't pan the Middle East, but y'all out the West one get the kid piece. Me step over to pretty Christine. A big broad smile and giggling teeth. Have a brand new 4-5 pretty crisp clean. We deal with the chica press pretty pristine. Them say them bad but we no intrigue. If you this now your top 10 killing increase. Increase. You know, yeah, easy. I want what's in I building. You know when we come through, just hide the gal them and hide the liquor.
All right. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right. First, let's get a Most High hand. All right. Shalom, Israel. Priest and Officer Natazak. We got Tuesday night Brotherhood class coming at you once again. You know what I mean? We're going to get it in real quick. Ain't going to hold you for too long. We're going to get a couple of good, quick little precepts in, a little topic going on right now. And I'm going to send y'all on y'all way. That's it. You know what I'm saying? So first and foremost, we're going to get into a very, very, very important and heavy topic, which is our King himself, right? So the title says the word, right? We're going to talk about Christ. This is what we're going to get into as far as detail, because a lot of people assume or think that they know Christ when they absolutely know nothing about Christ. They know more about the Christian Christ, which is Caesar Borgia. You know what I'm saying? They don't really know about the Christ of the Bible. You know what I mean? Yahweh Shai Mashiach in Hebrew. You know what I mean? They don't really know about our King. You know what I mean? The King that is actually written within the scriptures of this book. You know what I'm saying? They only know about what they've been told. They only know about like old fable tales and folklore about a man who never existed. But they don't know about the Christ in this Bible. You know what I mean? But we're going to teach about it. All right? So We're gonna get an understanding about who Christ is. We're gonna get an understanding about Christ's life, and we're gonna get an understanding of just get a little background on him real quick, right? You know what I'm saying? It's important to understand this. It's real important to understand this because of the times that we're living in right now. You know what I mean? And in this particular time period that we are living in right now, we're starting to see the entrance of our King, Yahweh Shai Mashiach. You know what I mean? And everybody thought that he would come in and it would be a glorious scene, and it would be a scene of kindness and a scene of pleasure and a scene of no. Christ is not coming to bring any of those things. He's not coming for your enjoyment. He's not coming for you to have a good time. You know what I mean? Christ's entrance to this world is going to be through war, through fire, through smoke, and through blood. You know what I mean? But we have to understand that because we've been being taught that Christ loves everybody. If you love everybody, you're not coming back to harm anyone. You're not coming back to spread justice. You're coming back to check everybody and get everybody in order and give everybody a hug, right? That's if you love everybody. But that's not the Christ that we see that's in this book. That's not the King that we see in this book. We know who Christ is. We know what Christ is going to do when he gets back. You know what I mean? And he's not coming to give hugs. He's not coming to give kisses. He's not coming to give gifts. He's coming to give war. He's coming to give warfare. And who is he giving warfare to? Well, you got to understand him in order to get that, right? So let's get an understanding about him, right? First of all, let's get into detail. Who is Christ? Who is he? Let's get into Christ's genealogy first. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to go to Matthew 1:1. So first of all, Christ, let's get into his parents, his mother and his father. His mother is Mary, his father is Joseph. You know what I mean? That's written in the Bible. There's nothing that should say that Christ did not have a father, that Christ magically appeared on earth. That's not no scriptures in the Bible that says that. He did not just appear. His parents came and they came together and did exactly what your parents did. They did exactly what my parents did. They did exactly what your parents' parents did, or your parents' parents did. They came together and they had a physical relationship. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? They consummated. They had pleasure in the bedroom. That's the best way I could put it. You know what I mean? Christ's mother and father had pleasure in the bedroom, just like your parents had pleasure in the bedroom, and my parents had pleasure in the bedroom, and now we're here. Okay? So that's how Christ came. Christ had a mother and a father, his father Joseph, his mother Mary. Okay? You have to understand that. To think that Christ is some type of angelic angel that came from the sky is just taking away the things that he's had to sacrifice in order to be in the position he's in right now. You're taking away things from him. You know what I mean? You're making him into something that you're not. So you're making it seem as if the things that you feel that you lack and that you lose to, Christ was able to beat it because he wasn't like you. And that's not true. Christ came on this earth to be just like you. You know what I mean? Other than sinning, Christ came to, it behooved him to be made like his brethren. And how were you made? With a mother and a father having pleasure in the bedroom. So Christ's parents had him. Okay? So that's just the gist of the whole situation. You have to understand, you have to push that wicked spell off you, that Christian spell off you in order to be able to really understand Christ and really understand what he went through. Because in your days right now, you probably fail at the things that you lust for. You probably fail at those things. because of the thing you give excuse after excuse, and you think about things that, oh, well, if this was like this, then I wouldn't be doing this, and this like this, I wouldn't be doing this. But Christ didn't have those excuses. Well, Christ had the same type of ways of thinking. Christ didn't want certain things to happen in his life. Christ was tempted, but at the end of the day, he succeeded. And it didn't take an angelic background for him to be able to succeed. It just took him knowing what the mission is, and it took him understanding what he needed to do, and him taking it to the next level as far as actually executing the mission. Something that you're probably lacking of because you believe that Christ had the up on you. But at the end of the day, those feelings that you feel before you go out and you decide to make those actions of sinning, before you go out and make those actions of wickedness, just think that those same thoughts or those same urges probably went through Christ's head as well. Only thing is, he just didn't do it, but you do. So you have to shake off that mindset that there's something angelic and Christ had the up on you, because it's not true. That's what we're going to take out at first, right? So Christ had parents. You know what I mean? Let's go to Matthew 1:1. Christ came from the seed of David. What is a seed? What is a man's seed? It's a sperm, right? Christ came from the seed of David. He came from the lineage of David. Through what? The flesh. We'll get to it. You know what I mean? But let's get an understanding that the only way of Christ coming through the lineage of David is in order for him to come through that lineage, he had to come through the seed, which is, you know what I mean? He had to come through a male seed, which is his father, Joseph, right? So Matthew 1:6, it says, and Jesse begat David the king, and David the king begat Solomon of her that had been the wife of Urias, which is talking about Solomon, King Solomon, right? So all these generations go down until we get to verse 16. Verse 16, it says, and Jacob begat Joseph. Who is Joseph? Mary's husband. We're just about to say it right now. Her husband. Her husband being is the fact that they had sex. That's why that's Mary's husband. Not because of a ceremony or a dance or a contract. It's because they came together and had sex. That's why Joseph was Mary's husband, right? And it says, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. Okay? So get that understanding. Joseph is his father. You want to battle that? That's a whole nother classroom. We just gonna get into the details. We're gonna get an understanding about Christ. If you want to battle, you know what I mean, what is it called? Immaculate Conception or reincarnation, all these things like that. That's another class for another topic. We'll just bear with me. We're getting into details about our King, Yahweh Shah Mashiach, right? So his father being Joseph, his mother being Mary. You know what I mean? Coming together and having a son, which is Christ, right? Okay. So let's get into the background of the spirit of Christ. Now we know that he was born, right? He was born, he was a baby, grew to a man, gave up the ghost. Now he's back, and now he's making his entrance back into this world. You know what I mean? But at first, he's not going to come as a man. He's coming as pestilence, as plagues, as earthquakes, as volcanoes, as hurricanes, tornadoes. You know what I mean? Destruction. Why is this place being destructed? It's because of the wickedness that it is gained from the abuse that is given to his brothers and his sisters, which are the Israelites, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. This is very, very easy. Very easy. You know what I mean? But we're going to go from step to step and detail, and we'll try to get this as much as possible, right? But let's get into the spirit of Christ. Christ is the first creation of the Most High God, right? Of his Father. Father being because he is the first creation. Now you gotta think. It gets way more deeper than what you think Christ is. You think, for some reason, Christ is the reason. Christ is God. Christ is his father, which is pretty much saying that he's a schizophrenic as well, because you're saying that he's been speaking to himself throughout the whole New Testament, which is not true. You know what I mean? He's speaking to his father, and he's speaking to his father because he is the spirit of Christ is the first creation of God. Okay. And then Christ was ordered, him and the angels, to go out, and he was given power. We're going to get into that in a second, so you can get an understanding about what Christ truly is, because it's way deeper than just him being perfect on earth and dying on the cross. It's way more deeper than that. You know what I mean? You have to really, really understand who our King is and what he has done for not only the world we live in, but for us. You know what I mean? So Christ being the first creation, Christ is the one who was given the order to go and create the heavens and the earth. Now, we're going to get a couple of precepts in the Bible to show and prove that. Now, first, we're going to go to, what is it? John chapter 1 and verse 1, right? Let's get there real quick. And it says, the book of John chapter 1 and verse 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. So let's get into that. Okay. Now, in the beginning of our world, right? This planet that we live on, you know what I mean? The air, the oceans, the fields, I said the ocean, so I can, the seas, the mountains, the sky. None of these things had form until Christ was given the order to form these things. Christ and the angels came, and this is where you get the book of Genesis. Does that mean that Christ is his father? No. That just means that Christ was given the order to go and, you know what I mean, make these things. And these things that he created were so pleasing to the Lord that he allowed him to have rulership over them. Hence why you get from Genesis all the way to Revelations to the prophecy of Christ ruling this planet, this world, right? Okay. But it all goes through from Old Testament to New Testament of how the buildup happens, right? So in the beginning was the Word. What is the Word? What is the Word? Does anybody know? What is the Word? Okay, so let's go to Revelations chapter 19 and verse 11. So this is the book of Revelations chapter 19 and verse 11. It says, and I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire. We know this is Christ, right? And on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew, but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. Okay, so this is the buildup. Is this his actual name? No. You know what I mean? Christ is the Word because the scriptures that have been written have all led up into his beginning all the way to his rule. Okay, this is why he is the Word. You know what I mean? Because Christ is in the Old Testament. Christ is in the Apocrypha. Christ is in the New Testament. He's all throughout the volume of the book. You know what I mean? This is why they call him the Word, right? So we know that the word is Christ. So what is it? What is it in Genesis? Let me see. I'll go back to John 1:1. So that just because we know that Christ is the word, right? So John 1:1. Let's see. So let's go back to it. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God. Okay. So Christ was with God. Christ was with power. That is the definition of what God means. That is the translation of that word, God. It means power. Christ was with power, and the word was God, and the word was power. The same was in the beginning with God, with power. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. So, what do we get from that, right? So, nothing would be made if it wasn't for Christ. The things we see, the things we wake up to, the things we go to sleep to, those things wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Christ. Christ was given the order and given the power by God to be able to create those things. We're gonna go to what is it? The same was the beginning with God. That's Colossians 1:14, right? So let's go to Colossians 1:14. Oh, slacking. Okay. Jesus. So the book of Colossians chapter 1:14 says, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth. Let's read that one more time. Who is the image of the invisible God? So he is the image of God. Does that mean that he is God? No. Him being the image is that he's doing the works of God. That's him being an image. Christ also said that him and his Father are one. You know what I mean? Does that mean that he is his Father? No. That's what a unlearned Christian would probably try to teach you. Because Christ said that him and his Father are one, it makes it seem as if Christ is claiming that he is his Father. You know what I mean? But that's the same thing that the Pharisees thought, and they wanted to kill Christ for that. You know what I mean? So a Christian is no different from Pharisees or Sadducees. Just keep it off the rip with it. Christ is not claiming to be his Father. He's saying that he's in the image of him. My son is in the image of me. Why? Because he walks in the manner that I walk. He walks in the manner that I've raised him to be in, that I taught him to be in. He does the things that he sees me do. He's walking in my, he's me and him are one. You know what I mean? And I raised him to be so. Does that mean that they were the same person? No. But he is me all over again. That's the best I could put it for you. His morals are the things that I instilled in him. His law are the things that I instilled in him. Me and him are one. So if you see me, you see him. And if you see him, you see me. You don't know how many times I've had people say, oh, yeah, well, your son look just like you. You know what I mean? Oh, you and your son the same. It's the same thing. That's what Christ is saying. You have to take that spell, that Christian spell off you, and stop thinking in a manner where you want Christ so bad to be the Father. Because what you're doing is you're being weak, because you're making it so that Christ is the only one that can accomplish following the law, statutes, and commandments. You know what I mean? Being a righteous person until his last breath. That's what you're doing. You're giving excuses. It's not what Christ wants. Christ wants you to understand his ups, his downs, you know what I mean, his temptations. He wants you to understand those things so you can understand yourself and understand that whatever you're going through and whatever you tend to be dealing with, you can be able to defeat those things and you can be able to accomplish not falling into that lustful spirit or that spirit of hatred towards your brother or that spirit of wickedness. You know what I mean? You don't have to fall into those things. That's what Christ is letting you know. You know what I mean? He says that it behooved him to be made like his brethren. I mean, he's made just like us. You just want him to be more because you feel like he can take over the slack that you're slacking on. But that's not what you're here for. You're here so you can accomplish the battles that you're facing. Stop being so weak and trying to find excuses not to face those battles. Face them, fight, and win. Why? Because Christ won, and he was in the same predicament as you, right? So let's keep going. I don't know if we finished Colossians, but I'm gonna leave that right there. Created by him. Let me just keep reading just for a second. Visible and visible and invisible, whether they be. Did I leave off right there? Yeah. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence. For it pleased the Father. Now we get into the Father, so we know that Christ can't be the Father. For it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell. Okay. Now that's what we get. Now we have an understanding that Christ was given the power to be able to create all these things. We're talking about the Spirit of Christ. You know what I mean? Now we got to understand also, Christ has made 5 appearances in the Bible. You know what I mean? It pleased the Lord so much of the things that Christ created while he was given the power to create this planet, these creatures, these different beasts. You know what I mean? These different beasts of the field and all these things like that. It pleased the Lord so much that of the work he was putting in, that he gave him an opportunity to have dominion over all of these things that he's created. Right? Hence Adam. You know what I mean? So we got Christ's first appearance as a person, and he is Adam. So this is why it gets heavy, and people will think that you are losing your mind because they don't believe that reincarnation exists. They believe that you just die and you go to heaven and you live there and you have church forever. You know what I mean? But we know that this is not true. The Bible speaks of reincarnation. You want to battle that? Put it in the chat and we'll talk about it another day. Because this is not based on what you want to battle. This is based on our King, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, right? But if it displeases you, we can get into that. We can get into that topic as well. I think we got into the topic a couple of times already, but we can get into that topic as well. Another day, let's talk about the King, right? So reincarnation exists. Christ made 5 appearances. He came back as Adam first. He came back as an appearance of Melchizedek. You know what I mean? And then he came back as Isaac. And then he came back as what else is next? Solomon. Then he came back as Christ. Okay. This is in a class of Christ written throughout the whole Bible. That's a topic that you can find all through these classes that we have on this page. So, you know what I mean, if you want to battle it right now, you won't be able to because we're not getting into it. But if you want to learn about it, then scroll through the classes and you'll find Christ in the Old Testament, Christ through the volume of the book, anything of those type of titles, you'll find the evidence of all these things, scriptures, precepts, anything you need. Okay, topics, anything you need is in there. Right, we gonna keep going. All right, so this is the appearances of Christ, and then we get to Christ. You know what I mean, it's heavy that we talked about Christ coming back coming as Adam, right? Because Adam and Eve were responsible of the bringing of sin to men. You know what I mean? To God's chosen, the disobedience. They were the first to be disobedient. So with that came death. But with Christ and his sacrifice comes life. I jumped so far ahead of this class, but that's the truth. That's what it all is based on. You know what I mean? Like I said, I ain't gonna keep y'all too long anyways. But that is the whole base of the purpose of Christ. You know what I mean? Adam brought sin. Christ defeats sin, destroys it, gives you a chance to come back and be who you are supposed to be. I jumped so far ahead, but we still gonna rock it out though. Because it's so many different topics. It's like it didn't ruin the suspense of everything. It just gives you it just keeps on boosting it up, because a lot of people, they don't understand how heavy it is, the topic of talking about our King Yahushua Mashiach, right? So let's keep going. Let's see. Okay, John 1:4-5. John 1:4-5. Let me see. I'm going to right now. Okay, in him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Does anybody know what the light is? Anybody? Am I blurry? Blurry. Back up a little bit. Okay, there we go. Does anyone know what the light is? In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. So in him was knowledge. That was what Christ had. He had knowledge. He had wisdom. Wisdom and knowledge is compared to light throughout Song of Solomon, Wisdom of Solomon. Solomon gets real in detail about talking about what the light is, what life is. I mean, that breath of life that Adam was given was wisdom, correction, was structure. That's what the light is. It's not natural spirit that jumps inside of you. You know what I mean? It's the wisdom that you have. It's the knowledge you have, right? That's the light. That's the light. And Christ had a lot of that. Christ had a lot of wisdom. He had a lot of knowledge. Okay. On to the next. Let's keep going. Let's go to John 1:12. I could just read the whole chapter. Take some time to read John chapter 1. You know what I mean? We ain't got that much time. We probably got about 30 more minutes left. But take your time to read John chapter 1. I'm just gonna fly through this real quick, but it says, "But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name." So that's the thing too. And but many that receive him, that's not everybody in this world. You know what I mean? Just keep it real. Christ came only for Israel. He came and his sacrifice was only for Israel. That is written in the Bible and get you the precept. But Christ came specifically for Israel. You know what I mean? So it's not saying that everybody that's in the world that believes in him, he's given them the power to be sons of God, because God doesn't want Ishmael to be his son. God doesn't want Ham to be his son. God doesn't want Cush to be his son. God doesn't want Edomites to be his son. We know that God has no he has not dealt so with those nations. He has not dealt so with any other nations but the 12 tribes. So when we see precepts in that manner, and when you have that spell on you, you all of a sudden just assume that it's speaking about anybody can just believe on him, and anybody could, you know what I mean, have the opportunity to be a son of God. That's not true. Okay, that's definitely not true. So let's see. So I can. Can we go to next? Let's check it out in Matthews 15 and 24 real quick. Matthews 15 and 24. I'm about to go there real quick. Oof. Okay, so it says, I'll start at 23. It says, but he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Okay, Christ came only for Israel. He says it himself. It's in the Bible. What else we got? Oh yeah, I missed a precept where, you know what I mean, Christ, people acknowledging the fact that Christ is Joseph's son. I don't know why I skipped that. So just imagine we're going back into the beginning of the class, right? And this is John 1 and 45. So the book of John, chapter 1 and 45, it says, Philip findeth Nathanael and saith unto him, we have found him of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Now, you got to slow that down just a little bit. You can't just fly right through that, okay? So they're saying that if Philip findeth Nathanael, right, and saith unto him, we have found him of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Moses in the law and the prophets. So they're saying themselves that Christ was mentioned in the Old Testament. You know what I mean? That go for you, Old Testament weirdos. I mean, who believe that Christ and the New Testament is non-existent. I mean, they wrote about Moses. Moses and them wrote about Christ. The prophets wrote about Christ. So Ezekiel, Isaiah, you know what I mean? David, all of them wrote about Christ in the Old Testament. I mean, there's precepts showing the prophecy of Christ coming and being the savior of Israel. You know what I mean? People just don't want to believe that, because specifically it's speaking of that savior only for Israel. They're not speaking of savior of the world. This savior is just coming specifically for Israel. That's why people disregard Christ being in the Old Testament. Because if it is Christ, then that means that there was no sacrifice for all men. There was sacrifice for Israel. That's it. Let's keep going. of Nathaniel. What else we got? Christ. Okay, and it says, verse 46, it says, and Nathaniel said unto him, can there any good thing come out of Nazareth? Take that as, can there any good thing come out of Nazareth? That's saying Christ came out the ghettos just like, the majority of us Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We're in the ghetto, and we're not talking about the whole population of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American, but the majority of us. The majority of our population are in the ghettos, in the barrios. On the reservations. This is where we're located. This is where you can find us at. Christ was also raised in the ghetto. This is showing proof of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans being God's people, or Christ's brethren. This is how you know, because Christ came out the ghetto, and so do we. Plain and simple. So the things that we've dealt with growing up, the hardships, the poverty, the things that we've had to deal with, Christ had to deal with those same things as well. Okay, Christ was probably on the streets playing football or hide and seek. He was probably, probably had days where he had to put water in his cereal. I don't know who done that. I haven't, but Lord be with you. It's probably a whole bunch of stuff that Christ probably had roaches. Yeah, roaches probably didn't exist back in those days. Roaches been standing the test of time. You know what I'm saying? Probably had roaches. Never know. This is what I'm saying is, went through the same things that we went through in these ghettos, in these projects. Went through the same thing we do. You know what I'm saying? They probably had drive-by horses. You know what I mean? It was throwing slinging rocks off a horse when they seen they ops on the street. No, I'm just funny. I'm just joking. Them all jokes, but but real talk. Christ came out the ghetto. You know what I mean? He came out the ghetto. That's why he's asking, could a good thing come out of Nazareth? Because Nazareth was the ghetto. Like saying, could a good thing come out of Compton? Could a good thing come out of the Bronx? I don't know if these places are all gentrified now, but before, they all ghettos. Okay. Can a good thing come out of Shreveport? You know what I mean? You got to think about that. So Christ came out the ghetto. What else? So, you really, not only was Christ had a mother and a father, he was made just like us, but he also had to live in the conditions we lived in. He also had to live under the circumstances that we lived in. A struggling mother and father. Trying to make ends meet. Joseph was a carpenter. How much do you see carpenters making now? Like, are they like the top occupation that people go to? You know what I'm saying? Like, think about it. The Bible's being specific for a reason. It's giving these details for a reason. So you can feel something for it. You can have some type of, what's the word I'm looking for? You can have some type of bond towards this, because our people are the ones who understand this type of lifestyle, understand this. Christ went through living in the ghetto, you know what I mean? And then the lifestyle that he chose was to be the high priest. You know what I mean? He chose the Father over everything. Even as a child, he could have been outside playing football. You know what I mean? For the what do you call it? The Nazarite high school. What do you call it? NH8. How would you say Nazareth High School? NHS. You know what I mean? He could have probably played for his high school in NHS, the Nazareth High School. You know what I mean? He probably could have been outside playing hide and seek. He chose to learn the scriptures. He chose, and it's not something that's unheard of. I mean, we got brothers in this school who are as young as 12, 11. You know what I mean? Sitting in class, all black, sitting in class trying to become officers. Like, it's not something that's not being seen before. You know what I mean? It's just the lifestyle that Christ chose. So let's keep it going. Let's keep this thing going. We had a dedicated young child who was had so much zeal for the Lord. You know what I mean? He was in the temples even at the teaching at the age of 12. So, you know what I mean? You got to think about how on fire Christ was for the scriptures, for his father. You know what I mean? Let's keep it going. All right, so I won't read that one. We can go into Christ's first miracle, I guess. So we're gonna go to 2:1. John 2:1. So Christ knew what he was capable of doing, right? He knew his mission. He knew when he needed to start his mission. So, you know what I mean? He's just enjoying his time until it was time for him to get to that work. And once it's time for you to be called to go do that work, you got to answer that call. A lot of people get called and a lot of people don't answer that call. You know what I mean? We here in Isupk, we chose to answer this call. You know what I mean? When we were called, we came and we answered the call. We were called to be priests. We were called to be troopers. We were called to be young men, whatever it was. We came in and we answered that call. Christ was preparing himself for that time period where he had to answer that call, because he already knew what the start off point and the end off point were going to be. But all in all, you know what I mean? He just didn't choose to do the wrong things. So he was a solid brother, right? Solid brother. All right, so we can read John 2:1. And it says, "And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, They have no wine. Jesus answered unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? My hour is not yet come." So that gives you insight about people trying to make Mary angelic, make her into a angelic creature as well. Just as well, they try to make Christ into an angelic creature. All these things are folklore, old fable tales, just nonsense. I mean, Christ was talking to his mama like she was just annoying him, like not all the time. You know what I mean? Of course, he loved his mother, but it's just, you know what I mean? When it came to serious business, he just like, you know what I mean? Like leave me alone. Like that's not what I'm trying to do right now. I'm not trying to stir up that attention yet. It's not that hour yet. When that hour comes, that's going to be the beginning of his end. You know what I mean? So like you could see why it probably irritated him. Like, nah, hold on, chill. Like, I'm trying to enjoy myself without the stress of knowing that that time is here. Because when that time is here, he knows what he has to do. He knows he has to be the sacrifice. He knows he has to die. So, you know what I mean? I can see why he's irritated in that moment. Like, woman, what have I to do with you? What am I going to do with you? Like, just chill. Chill. You know what I'm saying? That was heavy right there. Anywho, where we leave off at? Woman, what have I to do with thee? So just getting back into that. People are going to try to create these angelic things because they want you to serve, they want you to pray, they want you to idolize, they want you to sin, they want you to treat something over than God. I've seen people pray to Mary. I've seen it with my own eyes. I mean, I've seen people hang up a picture, not even Christ's mother Mary. We're talking about Caesar Borgia's sister that they tried to image, make an image that is Christ's mother, which is not. But they use that folklore tale and combined it with scripture and tried to make a deity. Okay, so people pray to this image. People pray to Mary, which is a false idol, because Mary in the Bible was just Christ's mother. She didn't know what his mission was. She didn't know where he was going with it, whatever he was doing. She didn't know his if and buts or whatever he had on his mind. She didn't have a clue. She was just being his mother. I mean, she just knew he was capable of making some wine. You know what I'm saying? So Christ made some wine. Okay. So all in all, there was nothing angelic about Mary. Mary was just a woman who loved her son. That's it. She wasn't this angelic creature that, you know what I mean? They do it with Mary, they do it with Caesar Borgia, they do it with the cobblestone. They try to make all these objects and things and paintings and all these things into a god, which is not, or an angelic creature, which is not. All right, back to it. And it says, mine hour is not yet come. His mother saith unto the servants, whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 frictions apiece. Jesus saith unto them, fill the water pots with water, and they filled them up to the brim. And he saith unto them, draw out now and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bear it. And when the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and saith unto him, every man at the beginning doth set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse, but thou kept the good wine until now. This beginning of the miracles did Jesus in Cana of Galilee, and manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him. So that's Christ's first miracle. We are not going to be able to get into all of the other miracles and the ending, but we can do a part 2 for sure. Definitely do a part 2. But this is just the start off of understanding Christ and his situation. You gotta really understand Christ. You have to understand his situation, his background. You gotta understand who our King is. You know what I mean? It's good for you to know. You might not believe it, but it's just good for you to know. You don't have to believe it. Just listen. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, that way you can be like, you know what I mean? I know Christ. Now, when he sees you, he gonna tell you he don't know you. But either way, you know what I mean? You can at least say you know him. Instead of this this fake deity that's been created in the Christian church, or the Catholic Church, you could just throw that away. You know what I mean? You can actually have a visual and an idea of the Christ in the Bible. at least. But going back to the heavy point of the spirit all the way up into the life of Christ, all these things correlate and matter in our lives and in this book. All these things lead up into the final prophecy. God, I can't even say the final prophecy because it's not going to be the only prophecy that's just the world doesn't stop when Christ returns. The world begins. You know what I mean? So there's going to be new prophecies. There's going to be new things that we have to accomplish. There's going to be new things that we have to do, but it's going to be in a righteous manner, and it's going to be under structure. It's going to be under authority. Look at the world of where it's at right now. No structure, no authority. People are divided. People are fighting over who's going to rule. People's fighting over, oh yeah, what's this that's going to happen? Ports are being shut down. Famine's going to start. War is already at brink. Bombs are being dropped. Another hurricane's about to drop in like what, a couple of hours? You know what I mean? Like, get yourselves prepared because it may not be right now. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be next week. It may not be the week after that. It may not be next year. It may not be in this lifetime. It may not be after the lifetime after that. But just prepare yourselves. Get right. You know what I mean? Fight those spells given to you from the Christian church. Fight that unwanted spirit. You know what I mean? Just fight. Stop falling into the same. It hasn't benefited you at all. I'm not just talking to. Yeah, I am. I'm just talking to the religious people. You know what I'm saying? You gotta break out of that narrative because as you read these scriptures, you're reading with a narrative already created in your mind. So you can't get past the things that you feel like you already know. It's not gonna your mind, that spirit is not gonna allow you to get past the things that you feel like you already know. You have to go into the details of this book without that the doctrine that's already been pushed in your mind. That doctrine has not benefited you at all. You know what I mean? You feel like, oh yeah, God's speaking to you personally. God is not speaking to you personally. It's not happening. He's not speaking to you personally. He does not know you. God does not listen to the prayers of a sinner. So you can't say, oh, I'm not perfect and we all sin, and then read that the Bible says that, you know what I mean, God doesn't hear the prayers of a sinner. What is that? John 9 and 13? I think it's John 9 and 13. But God doesn't hear the prayers of a sinner. He doesn't hear what you're saying. You know what I mean? So you can't sit there and say, oh, I'm not perfect and I sin. And, oh, yeah, well, I mean, I pray to God. You're not praying to God. God's not speaking to you either. It does not make sense. It does. It's idiotic. It's idiotic. Okay. So get an insight on who Christ is. That's it. Get an insight on Christ is because when you understand Christ, you understand his Father. You understand his mission. You understand where his background is, where he came from, and you understand where he's fit to go. Because we are living in the times of the fall of America. This is the fall of Babylon. You know what I'm saying? Like, we probably might not be able to see the final fall, but we're witnessing the Bible. We're witnessing the words of the Bible being created into, you know what I mean, into a physical form. We're watching those things. We see the war. We see the destruction. We see the famine. We see the pestilence. We're seeing the entrance of Christ leading up to the final. None of these main empires have lasted. They've all became desolate. The same will happen to America. Your faith in this nation is going to get you hurt. It's going to get you unalived. Having faith that this place is going to get better because of their long longevity is going to get you hurt. You are not ready for what's going to come to this place. And then not just that, when destruction finally does reach the borders of this land, they're not going to go out of their way to help you. They're not. Black, Hispanic, and Native American, they don't help us now, even at the top of their class. Just think of what's going to happen when this place becomes lower and lower and lower and lower. You know what I mean? They're going to come after our resources first. They're going to come after our destruction first. Even in their destruction, they're going to still hate us, and they're still going to want to unalive us. So you need protection. And that's why you have to build this body under Christ's authority, under Christ's rule, because he's the only righteous ruler. Kamala Harris ain't gonna do it for you. Donald Trump ain't gonna do it for you. None of these people are going. These people have been distracting you and destroying you for how long now? Why continue to allow yourselves to be put under the foot of a predator? Okay. Part 2 coming soon. You know what I mean? Part 2. And we gonna get into the details of Christ's walk through life, the miracles he's given, the things he's done. I mean, let's give the king some acknowledgement. You know what I mean? Let's give him some appreciation. Because we wouldn't even be put in this position to be able to hear this truth if it wasn't for Christ. We'd be stuck with Christianity and Catholic Church all day. You know what I mean? But we are the ISUPK on the Commander Jane Yohana. I want to say Shalom Yahweh Shem Yahushua Barak Thumb to the brothers. Shalom Yahweh Shamar the Thumb by Shem Yahushua to the sisters. The water for y'all tuning in. Come back next week, Tuesday, Brotherhood class. Shalom.